The Indianapolis Colts fly over to Minnesota to take on Sam Darnold and the Vikings. It's going to be a fun matchup here. My name is Tyler with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Week 9 matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and Minnesota Vikings. But before we get into that, we do have a goal of getting to 100 new subscribers for these Week 9 prediction videos we have going out. So if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game and why. Ryan, last time we saw the Minnesota Vikings play, it was after a controversial no call in the end zone that ended up being a safety and the overall loss against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. Last time we saw the Colts was when it was past Sunday where they lost to the Texans again, going to 4-4 on the season. The Vikings have lost 2 in a row now, but it's still, I think, a lot of hope in a very tough division. Still think that they can go and win. Colts, though, they're lucky. The AFC is, as the picture's starting to come clear, about you're either half of them are good teams, half of them are bad teams. So, they're going to be still in that fringe playoff spot here. What do you think both these teams so far in the season, and what do you think each team has to do to keep on improving so they can kind of ensure their playoff chances come the end of the season?
Yeah, I think Minnesota, they just need to get back on track. They had that tough loss to the Lions, and then they go out on a short week and have a poor performance due to their standards on Thursday Night Football against the Rams. That is tough on the short week traveling across the country, again, especially after a tough loss like they had the week before. And they just need to get back on track. They've had a little mini bye here to kind of get things rolling again. And I think with that, get this offense back on track, start getting Justin Jefferson the targets that he rightfully deserves. This defense, I think we've kind of seen them start to slip up a little bit the past few weeks. They were pretty dominant early on in the season. I think teams have started to kind of figure out some of what Brian Flores is actually doing there. So if they can get that going again, I think that would be and that's just based solely on the points. I think you look like this from the second half of that Packers game. They gave up a lot of points, had a good game against the Jets, but they gave up 31 to the Lions and then 28 to the Rams there. So
30. Well, I guess it was a safety, yes.
It was a safety, yeah. So I like this is still a really good Vikings team. They just kind of need to get back to what they were doing early on in the year to keep being successful. And the thing with the Colts that like blows my mind is this defense is not very good. This offense is super inconsistent at times, but it kind of feels like they're just playing to their competition. So like if they play a good team, then they play well. If they play a bad team, then they don't play well. It's like you go look, lost to the Texans twice this past week and in week 1, gave up 29 and 23. They had some explosive plays in each game, but just not quite enough. Too many mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. Green Bay loss, they just couldn't stop the run at all. And then the loss to Jacksonville, they gave up too many explosive plays. But they like all their wins, I feel like they're just barely able to eke it out. Like 21-16, 27-24 against Pittsburgh, 2017 against Tennessee, 16-10 against Miami. Like it just feels like all of their games, if they're winning, are very, very close.
Well, it almost is like with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Yeah, you got the explosive plays, but it comes with the inconsistencies. And then with Joe Flacco at quarterback, it's kind of like what you got with Gardner Minshew last year. Like not going to be too many flashy things, but he's not going to make those mistakes. He's going to be much more consistent. You kind of know what this offense is going to become. That being said, though, too, I say like not that many explosive plays though, but Joe Flacco put up what 34 against Jacksonville.
Yeah, but they put up 14 points off of like 2, I don't say fluky plays because they did it twice, but 2 big plays to Alec Pierce late.
Well, it was that explosiveness, that we're saying that I was saying that they were lacking. So like there is some stuff there. Just with Anthony Richardson, one, you want him to develop. You picked him 4th overall for a reason. So you want to see him keep developing. But at the same time, though, too, you're like, you got to be winning these football games. And if they would have maybe been more consistent today and had a little more balanced, dynamic offense, then it would have been a potential victory for them. And a much-needed game here against the Houston Texans. Now they're 2 games down on the Texans in the division without the tiebreaker. Also, I think they're 1-3. Yeah, they're 1-3 in the division now as well. Yeah. So, and that's important too. Just talking about the playoffs as we're halfway through the season. Then the same thing goes with Minnesota as well. They're 5-2 in a very tough division, and there's some deep teams I think on in the NFC now. We got Well, I'll say the Bucs also too with the NFC South, but they might regress a little bit just with some of the injuries that they got going on. All the other teams in the NFC North they have to worry about. You got Washington is was unexpected to be this good, and then you still got the Eagles and the Commanders, and then at the same time too, the NFC West they're almost all around 500 now. So who knows what's going to happen overall? Biggest thing though, I think kind of going into this matchup here is going to be, can the Colts defense have a similar type performance today as what they did against the Texans? Performance today against the Texans and do that against the Minnesota Vikings as well. They were able to keep them to under 100 rushing yards. I know there's a couple of serious negative plays that the Texans had to help get them under 100 yards. Still kind of kept them in check. C.J. Stroud and company, 267 total team passing yards. And so not great, but has definitely been worse that this Colts team has allowed passing offensively. Can they keep them in check and take advantage of this Minnesota Vikings offense, who will be reeling without their best offensive lineman, Christian Darrisaw, who's now out for the season. And that's going to be a huge loss for them, because the game plan for Minnesota is going to be probably a heavy dose of Aaron Jones against this really poor rushing defense in Indianapolis. And at the same time, too, not only do they have a poor rushing defense, they probably have an even worse pass defense. And how are they going to try and cover Justin Jefferson? So they are able to slow down Joe Mixon in this Texans running game, which I'm pretty sure, put up 213 on them in the week 1 of the season. So big improvement overall in that aspect. But Justin Jefferson's a totally different animal. I don't know how they're going to stop them. Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler, and I think this running game, I can have a big game, unless if the Colts can provide a lot of pressure, put a lot of pressure on this offensive line, and really get Sam Darnold uncomfortable. If Sam Darnold's there and he's able to kind of take his time and pick apart this defense, I don't see how Anthony Richardson and company are going to be able to keep up with the Vikings offense here.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, especially too, like, this Vikings offense has been pretty consistent throughout the year. They haven't made like a whole lot of mistakes, and not to say that they've been perfect, but you like in juxtaposition to the Colts offense, like this is, I think, what the Colts are trying to do with the explosive plays and whatnot. And the Colts definitely have some weapons. I just trust the Minnesota Vikings to be the more consistent team in this matchup, and the Vikings still have a really solid receiving group as well, obviously led by Justin Jefferson and whatnot. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go with the Vikings to pull out ahead.
I'm also going to go with the Vikings as well. I do believe that they're going to, like, and that's kind of goes back to the conversation at the beginning of the videos. Like, I think Anthony Richardson and company, they're going to get their licks in just with how explosive they are and how big his arm is. But that being said, though, it's only just going to be a couple of maybe haymakers the Vikings can fight off. I think over a 15-round bout, the Vikings are going to win the vast majority of those rounds. I think Justin Jefferson is going to get a lot of yards, a lot of targets that you were talking about earlier. I think Aaron Jones is probably going to have a 100-yard rushing game. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a lot of catches in the backfield as well. Don't forget about Jalen Naylor also, too. They're also potentially, I know TJ Hawkinson potentially could be coming back as well. And so I have to kind of monitor that status, as there's been talks of when he's going to come back. That's going to be a huge addition for this team also. So I just think, just looking at this matchup, especially too, just looking at the numbers, it definitely think this Minnesota is highly favorable in this matchup here. It's hard for me to go against them.
Let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. Will it be the Indianapolis Colts? Will it be the Minnesota Vikings? And then we'll see you guys next time.